Please rewind this cassette.
Hey guys, welcome to Box Office Addict, episode 98. I guess I have to apologize to you guys because there hasn't been a Box Office Addict for 2 weeks. So technically this would have been episode 100 had I been keeping up with the week-to-week episodes that I've been doing. But as you know, I like to go on hiatuses sometimes, and I gave you guys that Christopher Nolan video, so don't be little assholes about it. Come on. Anyway, I was really excited about episode 98 because we were going to be talking about the release of Bad Boys 3 or Bad Boys for Life, which if this had been the fourth movie, they could have put a 4 there. So I think there's a missed opportunity, honestly. This movie overperformed. Bad Boys for Life has been doing really, really well. So we're going to have to go through weekends. This current weekend is the weekend 2 weeks ago when the movie opened, and then we'll look at the following weekend, and then we'll look at the Super Bowl weekend. So we're going to have to cover 3 different weekends here. It's a lot to go through, people. Before we get to that, we'll talk about some other films real quick, and then we'll focus kind of like on how Sony was able to revamp the Bad Boys franchise. And it's a big comeback for Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, who I don't know if he's been relevant for 15 years. I mean, when I was a kid in the 90s, Martin Lawrence was like the shit. He's coming to Columbus this year, though. Do I want to go see fat Martin Lawrence? I don't know. Anyway, Frozen 2 is still the highest grossing animated film with $1.4 billion. Parasite has been well overperforming. Parasite got another wide release with its Academy Award nominations. Parasite is currently at 33 mil domestic and 163 million worldwide, so it's jumped up $30 million and become an even bigger hit. And now they're doing an HBO show based off of it with Adam McKay, which sounds fucking horrible. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got an international boost. It's at 389 million worldwide. So a lot of these Oscar movies have been getting a big push. Oh, there's a re-release of An American in Paris. I've never been a big fan of that movie. I know it's a classic. Let's see if Joker got any higher. Joker's pretty much at the same. I think it made another $1 million. Ford v Ferrari's at 221. Jojo Rabbit's doing a lot better. Jojo Rabbit's at 64 million worldwide on a $15 million budget. So internationally, that film's pulling through. Uncut Gems, I don't know where that's at. That's at 48 mil domestic. Looks like it'll end at 50 million. So I think that'll put it past Lady Bird, or right around where Lady Bird ended up. And then, of course, you have the Kristen Stewart bomb Underwater, which is sinking at the box office. Knives Out is a huge fucking hit. Knives Out is at $155 million domestic and 138 mil internationally. It's going to make 300 million worldwide. Huge, huge performance for that movie. Little Women is at 98 million worldwide. Of course, on this weekend, it made 6 million. It's at 162 million worldwide. It's at 98 mil domestic on a $40 million budget. So that's a big hit too. And then, of course, Star Wars took a significant drop. This movie is at 507 mil domestic and 550 million international. And that's at 1,060 million. I don't think this will make 1.1 billion, or it doesn't look like it will. I can't compare this to anything. This is such a huge drop from the 2 billion of Force Awakens and then the 1.3 of Last Jedi. I mean, I don't think domestically this is going to make as much as Rogue One, which made 532 mil domestic. So this isn't even performing as well as that movie. And this movie cost like twice the budget, or double the budget. You can just look at this here, the drops that it slowly had from a weekend standpoint. You know, we go 177, then 72, then 34. These are all in the 50s. 56, then 45. Now it's holding a little bit better. But it just did not... I mean, it didn't open big enough to really get that huge domestic total. And a lot of studios thought it would hold better over the season. But I think it's because all of these other movies overperformed. I think it's because 1917 did so well. And you know, Jumanji continued to do well, and Little Women and Knives Out, and then of course Bad Boys. That, you know, why the fuck would you go see Star Wars? You know, all of these other movies did so well. Jumanji made 9.7, 30% drop. Jumanji is at 291 million domestic. 754 million worldwide, which is huge. The movie doesn't need to make 800 million. It's already, I'm sure, at least $200 million in net profit. Let's talk about Doolittle, which was what a weird decision by Robert Downey Jr. This is like when he made that movie The Judge. You come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the highest grossing film of all time. I think he had like 6 movies in a row that made 100 mil domestic plus, and he was going to have the record with just 2 or 3 more movies. But now he's in this disaster. This movie cost $175 million. It has like a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. They must have paid Downey like 30 mil to be in this goddamn thing. And here it is at 127 million worldwide, 55 mil domestic after a few weeks. I mean, this is a bomb. This is a huge hit to Downey coming off. I mean, it's not like his career's over. He's not Robert Downey Jr. It was just a bad project. You know, I think the smart thing to do with this would have been to do it more like the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle, instead of this big epic swashbuckling Narnia, the Golden Compass-esque movie, this big blockbuster. Like, you could have made this movie for $80 million, had it be set in the modern day, have Robert Downey Jr. be Dr. Dolittle, and he talks to animals and he gets celebrity voices. You could have just done what they did with Eddie Murphy, and the movie probably would have made 100 mil domestic and enough worldwide to be considered a modest hit. And it might have even gotten decent reviews. Like, it could have been a comedy, you know? But this, I don't know what they were thinking. This movie would have needed to make 450 to 500 million worldwide to be a hit. So just a bad project all around from Universal. Bad choice by Robert Downey Jr. Like, he could have made a third Sherlock Holmes movie. He could have done another comedy like Due Date. He could have done a drama, you know, character study. I would have liked to have seen him work with David Fincher again, maybe Paul Thomas Anderson. You know, but this is like the worst thing he could have done. No good. No good indeed. But Universal, on the other end of the spectrum, has 1917, the current frontrunner for Best Picture, that is crushing it at the box office. $21 million this weekend. And it's now, I think it's been out for, 4 weeks in wide release. It's been out for 41 days, but I believe wide release, it's only been about a month. This movie's at $119 million domestic, $130 million international, $250 million worldwide. Now, this film did cost $90 million. So I'm not quite sure they're at the break-even point. I think they're about there. And I think it will make over $300 million worldwide and be a modest success. I'm just talking in terms of profits. This film is a success because it got 10 Academy Award nominations. It's acclaimed. It's a huge return for Sam Mendes after Spectre got such, you know, negative reception and took a huge dip after Skyfall's $1.1 billion. So this is a big success. It should win a few Oscars. And I think it did better than anyone thought it was going to do when it had its opening weekend, which I think was like 38 million. Let's look. 37 million, then 21, then 26 for the Martin Luther King weekend, which is where Bad Boys opened. Then 15 million and 9 million. Is holding really well. I'd say 140 mil domestic isn't out of the question. And definitely over 300 million worldwide. I mean, yeah, it's not doing Dunkirk numbers, but also Dunkirk cost anywhere from 100 to 150 million and was a bigger movie. You know, it was set up to be a $500 million worldwide movie. This isn't quite the same level of a blockbuster, but yeah, it's really nice because you think about Sam Mendes, he has this, and American Beauty, and Road to Perdition, and Skyfall. Now he has a much nicer filmography overall, you know, because there was a lot of questions. Was he sort of a one-hit wonder, or did he peter out as time went on? So yeah, 1917 is doing really well, and that just needs to be said. Okay, and now let's get to Bad Boys, man. I mean, I don't know how Sony pulled this off. We're gonna go weekend to weekend on this one. So if you look here, the first weekend was 62 million. Now this is a $90 million film. The Bad Boys 2 film that came out years ago by Michael Bay cost more than this. That film cost $120, $130 million and made, I think, 148 mil domestic and 273 million worldwide. So This film got good reviews. Joe Carnahan. God, what's his fucking name? Joe Carnahan. Guy directed Narc. He was attached to this for a long time. But here we are, man. I mean, this just shows that people still love this franchise. I remember people talking about it at my job. There's a lot of people that were wanting a new Bad Boys movie. And Will Smith's coming off Aladdin, which was $1 billion grosser. Although I don't think that was because of him. And then Gemini Man was a bomb. Good old Gemini Man. But here we are with the third Bad Boys film, and the franchise is back. So Will Smith really needed this to solidify himself, and it was great that they brought this in at a modest budget. If this had cost $150 million, I don't think this would look as impressive. But they put it in at under $100 million, which I think is about what a Bad Boys film should cost. But here you go, $62 million, $73 million over the Martin Luther King holiday weekend, $34 million second weekend, 45% drop. And here we are with the $17 million weekend on the Super Bowl weekend, which we'll look at that weekend for a minute. But so far, this is at $290 million worldwide, and I think $400 million is definitely possible. Let's look at the other Bad Boys movies for comparison's sake, which is much harder now to do with box office mojo. So the original Bad Boys cost $20 million. This was one of Michael Bay's like big breakout movies. This and The Rock, before he made Armageddon. This is back when Michael Bay still made decent movies. In fact, I would say Bad Boys is arguably Michael Bay's best movie. Like this and Pain and Gain, I think are his two best films. And a lot of it had to do with the chemistry between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. And it made it stand out a little bit from 48 Hours or Lethal Weapon. You know, these two had a very, at the time in the 90s, this was very modern. But honestly, this film was a big surprise hit because at the time Will Smith was still like a TV star, and it made 65 mil domestic and 141 million worldwide. So it was definitely the start to a franchise, and it helped put Michael Bay on the map. And then we have Bad Boys 2, which people like Edgar Wright love. I think Tarantino's a fan. A lot of people consider this to be like one of the great bad movies ever made. There's some amazing cinematography in this movie. There's that shot where the bullet like goes through the wall. This is Michael Bay when he went to his complete indulgent insanity. Like, this is Transformers 2 Michael Bay. This is Pearl Harbor Michael Bay. This movie is fucking nuts from an editing filmmaking standpoint. I will admit, I enjoy Bad Boys 2, and I never thought until Hot Fuzz came out that it would influence people and be parodied. There's a special place in my heart for Bad Boys 2. But this film did not perform as well as the first movie, way over budgeted. And I get it, at the time Will Smith was such a huge star, but $130 million in 2003, that's a huge budget. I mean, let me give the comparison here. Spider-Man cost $140 million the year before. Harry Potter cost, the first Harry Potter film. God, what did the first Harry Potter film cost? Like, it wasn't as high as this. I think it was like 150 million, something like that. I mean, Lord of the Rings cost 90 million. I mean, at the time, $130 million budget was a really big budget. And to go with that off a franchise that hadn't had a film come out since 1995, because you could make a good argument they should have come out with Bad Boys 2 in like 2000 or 1999, when they still had momentum, but they waited a long time. And yeah, this movie was just crazy, and it got really bad reviews. But $130 million budget, that killed this film's profits. Because it had a good opening weekend. I believe the opening weekend was like $48 million. $46 million opening weekend. Yeah, it had a good opening. But yeah, then $138 million domestic, only $8 million above its budget. That does not include marketing. And internationally, they didn't get as much of a percentage from the tickets back then. This is in 2003. So I don't really know if this film made a lot of money. Even though, you know, $273 million worldwide looks nice, I would say that this film just broke even. Now, of course, back then, home video was still popular. People still rented and bought DVDs like crazy. So I know Bad Boys 2 has made money in television distribution. But like I said, yeah, this was absolutely nuts that this film cost this much. This is that early on where, I mean, for fuck's sakes, Transformers 1 cost only $20 million more than this, like, 4 years later. and is a much, much more impressive looking movie. Now, I'm guessing this has a lot to do with Will Smith most likely got paid $20 million. I'm sure Martin Lawrence got $15 million. So right there's $35 million. Where the first film, I don't even think either one of them probably got paid more than $1 million, if that. I could see Will Smith getting $500,000 for the first Bad Boys. So yeah, Bad Boys 2. So then this franchise was dead. I mean, guys, this is a long time. 2003 was now 17 years ago. I mean, we'll say more 16 years ago. But yeah, this is like 16 years ago. And there had been talk about Bad Boys 3 for years. Like Michael Bay was going to do Bad Boys 3. Joe Carnahan was going to do it. There was script issues. Will Smith's career kind of went up and down. He had that great run in the 2000s where he was like in Hancock and I Am Legend, and every movie was a hit, and he was the biggest star in the world. He couldn't make a movie that didn't make 500 million worldwide and over 200 mil domestic. But here we are, and this film has the lower budget 16 years later, naturally. But that just it makes it even bigger of a gap because the 130 million for 2003. I mean, that'd be like a $200 million budget today, wouldn't it? Be huge. $90 million budget, so I don't think Will Smith or Martin Lawrence got huge paydays on this. I'm sure they both got back end. Baby got back on that. And here we are, and this is already the highest grossing film of the franchise. Now, unadjusted for ticket price inflation. I believe if you adjust the first Bad Boys, which you used to be able to look at Box Office Mojo, it would definitely be over 100 million, and Bad Boys 2 would be over 200 million. So those films technically sold more tickets. But really, just comparison, this really is not bad. You know, this movie wasn't going to make $600 million. I mean, come on. And the fact that it's been 16 years. I mean, they could have made Bad Boys 3 in 2010, 2012, all sorts of years that would have been good years to release this. To wait till now, when they're this late in the career. I mean, Martin Lawrence looks old and fat and shit. I mean, this is insane, but here we are with it, and there was one producer at Sony that was really pushing this through and wanted this to happen. So yeah, 148 mil domestic. I think 350 to 400 million worldwide is definitely possible, and with the budget being 90 million, they're definitely going to make some profit, and it got really good reviews. It's the best reviewed film of the trilogy, and they're already talking about Bad Boys 4. Okay, let's see if we can look at the weekend numbers. Oh, come on. What the fuck is going on? All releases, domestic numbers. Oh, wait, we'll just go to the current weekend. Duh. Okay, here is the current weekend, which also had Gretel and Hansel. Ooh, that Hansel's so hot right now. Anyway, made $17.6 million over the Super Bowl weekend, where the Kansas City Chiefs had a comeback victory against the San Francisco 49ers. It was a pretty entertaining Super Bowl. But Bad Boys made $17.6 million. So I would say, let's see where it's kind of falling with these 50% drops. It looks like 175 mil domestic is a pretty good spot. As for Jumanji, it will make 300 million. Of course, we have The Gentleman now from Guy Ritchie starring Matthew McConaughey, which actually at 48 million worldwide, it looks like the international box office can really help this movie. So yeah, there you go. Bad Boys is the success story. It's an early success coming into 2020. Making a lot of money. 1917's making a lot of money. And then you have Doolittle, which is just bombing from Universal. So this is a hit for Sony. Right under that, a hit for Universal. Then Jumanji's doing really well. It's nice to see that of all the movies out right now, the one place that isn't dominating everyone is, of course, Star Wars, which is right here, and it's going to be done in another few weeks. Then you have the rhythms section starring Blake Lively, who's not a movie star, will never be a movie star, and Hollywood and everyone needs to quit pretending that she's a movie star. I know she's the greatest wife ever, according to the media, and she's just amazing, but she's not a star. And quit pretending that she is. Nobody gives a fuck about her. She's overrated. She's not a good actress. I don't even think she's attractive as people like to make her out to be. I'm not saying she's a bad-looking woman. I just don't get the hype. And of course, this movie made 2.7 million. So yeah, Blake Lively, not a thing. It's like Kristen Stewart. Stop trying to make it a thing. People don't care. I'm sorry. Maybe they came into the industry too late to become movie stars. I think it's very hard. I think like Jennifer Lawrence type things happening is a freak occurrence now. Spies in Disguise, the other Will Smith movie, is at 157 million worldwide. But yeah, this is really cool for Will Smith. Because Aladdin, seemed like a fluke for him. But now he has a franchise back. They can make Bad Boys 4. Hopefully that'll make some money. And the franchise is back now, at least temporarily. And people seem to be really liking this movie. People seem to be really positive about it. And now it's kind of in that weird Lethal Weapon area where there's going to be 4 movies. Oh man, does that mean they're gonna like fight like a kung fu guy? Like, is Tony Jaa gonna show up and kick their asses in Bad Boys 4? Although at this point with something like Bad Boys out, I'm just thinking like, yeah, we have the John Wick franchise. I don't need a movie like this anymore. It does feel like a product of its time, but there's definitely a lot of nostalgia going on here that's pushing this. So the Oscars are coming up on Sunday, and 1917 is the movie at the box office right now. It's got all the momentum. This just helps the movie's chances. And then, of course, you have Little Women right there. And Knives Out just got a screenplay nomination, which I don't think it'll win. So, yeah, look out for 1917. I think if you're doing your Oscar predictions, I would put your money on it right now. Although some people think Parasite's going to be the upset. But especially with the BAFTA wins and the DGA wins and the Producers Guild awards and all that. I mean, Parasite did win SAG. But yeah, I think 1917's winning Best Picture, Director, and all that. But yeah, good for Sony. They've had ups and downs over the years, but I would say with the success of Little Women, the success of Jumanji, and of course now the success of Bad Boys, they're in a pretty good spot right now. And Universal, well, Universal isn't having the best year, but and then Parasite with Neon, look at Neon, this small studio getting this box office out of this movie, and then getting all those Academy Award nominations. Really impressive, really took on like other studios like A24, Fox Searchlight, and surpassed them, at least overall in success, with this one little movie. I mean, granted, when you have a movie that good, it doesn't hurt. So yeah, tell me what you think the final total for Bad Boys 3 will be, and 1917, and what the fuck do you think happened with Doolittle? Production issues, what was going on here, and why did Downey Jr. even sign up for this thing? It's really disappointing to see him in this after he's retiring as Iron Man, and then you see him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's cool as shit. Downey, just go make some comedies, man. Remember Tropic Thunder, dude? Like, just go make some comedy movies. That's it. I just want to see you do comedy, and then do like win your Oscar, and then you can fucking retire. Because Downey Jr. is one of my favorite actors, and he's been trapped in that Iron Man role for so long. I'm ready for some new, different stuff. I want to see a new Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I want to see a new Zodiac. I want to see those performances again. Fuck, Back to School even. But the Bad Boys are back. And this was just a well-marketed, well-oiled, well-timed machine. They really did good on this. And they got the opening they needed. They really did.